Imagine waking up, only to see your own body lying lifeless while doctors desperately try to revive you. You feel weightless, drawn to a glowing tunnel, until suddenly everything goes dark. Sounds like fiction, right? But what if I told you this has happened to thousands of people? These are near-death experiences, and while science struggles to explain them, the people who've lived through them are forever changed. Today, we uncover 5 real-life near-death experiences that defy all logic. Welcome to MediMysteries, and today we explore the mysteries science can't explain. Let's begin. Our first story takes us to the rural heartland, where a young man named Kevin experienced something he could never have imagined. Kevin was clinically dead for 7 minutes after a horrific car crash. 7 minutes in our world. But for Kevin, it felt like a lifetime. He told his family that he first saw himself from above, his broken body illuminated by the flashing lights of the ambulance. Then he felt himself being pulled away, drawn towards a glowing tunnel at an impossible speed. At the end of this tunnel, bathed in a warm, comforting light, stood his grandfather, smiling, arms open wide. The same grandfather who Kevin had shared countless fishing trips and stories with. But his grandfather had passed away years ago. None of that mattered in this place. They talked, they laughed, and Kevin felt a sense of peace he had never known. All his worries, all his pain, simply melted away. But here's the truly shocking part: his grandfather was still alive back on Earth. At least that's what everyone believed. Hours later, Kevin miraculously awoke from his coma, only to learn that at the exact moment he was revived, his grandfather had passed away peacefully in his sleep. Coincidence? A trick of the mind? Or something much deeper? Was this a final, loving farewell, orchestrated across the veil of death? Hold on, because the next case is even more chilling. Dr. George, a renowned heart surgeon, was a man of science. His life revolved around the tangible, the measurable, the explainable. He scoffed at the notion of an afterlife, that is, until he died for 2 agonizing minutes during a routine surgery. He would later describe the experience as surreal and unnerving. He found himself floating above the operating table, watching his own lifeless body as his colleagues frantically fought to save him. He could hear everything with a clarity that defied explanation. He even heard them declare, "Time of death, 2:45 p.m., a cold, clinical statement that marked the end of his existence. But his consciousness continued. He was then pulled into a tunnel, a vortex of colors and emotions, where he relived every moment of his life in vivid detail. The joy of his wedding day, the birth of his children, the quiet satisfaction of a life dedicated to healing others, it all flashed before his eyes in an instant. And then, just as suddenly as it began, he was back in his body, gasping for air, as his team celebrated his miraculous recovery. What made Dr. George's case truly remarkable was his insistence on recounting the details of his death. He accurately repeated everything the doctors had said and done while he was gone, including the exact time they pronounced him dead, 2:45 p.m. How could a dead man know this? How could a mind devoid of brain activity bear witness to its own demise? Science, with all its advancements, has no answers. Dr. George's experience challenged everything he thought he knew about life and death. And if you think that's eerie, the next story will leave you questioning reality itself. Chapter 3. The woman who felt every emotion at once. Sarah, a young musician, had never feared death. She saw it as a natural part of life's symphony, a transition to a different melody. But nothing could prepare her for what she experienced during the 4 minutes she was clinically dead. Sarah's heart had stopped during a routine surgery, plunging her into the abyss of death. But instead of a tunnel or a white light, Sarah experienced something far more overwhelming, far more profound. She felt everything. Every human emotion from every person she had ever encountered, all at once. The crushing grief of a grieving widow, the unbridled joy of a child's laughter, the searing pain of heartbreak, the quiet contentment of a life well lived. It all washed over her in an unstoppable torrent. Sarah described it as living 1,000 lifetimes in a single moment. She felt the interconnectedness of all beings, the shared tapestry of human experience woven together by an invisible thread. Then, just as suddenly, she was back in the operating room, her heart beating rhythmically, her body whole. But Sarah was changed forever. The world seemed different, the colors more vibrant, the emotions of those around her more palpable. She claimed that emotions are not just chemical reactions in our brains but fundamental forces that connect us beyond the realm of the living, real or not, a hallucination brought on by a dying brain, or a glimpse into the true nature of consciousness. I'll let you decide. But this next case, it's beyond belief. Chapter 4. The Blind Woman Who Saw for the First Time. Our journey takes us next to Vicky, a woman who had been blind since birth. She had never experienced the world through sight. She had never seen colors, faces, or even her own reflection. Her world was one of darkness, defined by sound, touch, and smell. But after a near-fatal car accident, Vicky was clinically dead for 5 excruciating minutes. And in those 5 minutes, something miraculous, something thought to be scientifically impossible, occurred. She could see. Vicky described floating above her mangled body, watching as paramedics and doctors worked feverishly to save her. She later recounted the scene in vivid detail, describing the layout of the emergency room, the equipment used to revive her, even the color of the nurses' uniforms. All of this from a woman who had never experienced sight before. Here's the impossible part. Vicky's descriptions were accurate. She had no way of knowing these details, no way to fabricate them. Her story sent shockwaves through the medical community, challenging our understanding of the brain and the nature of consciousness. If a blind person can see while clinically dead, experiencing the world through sight for the first time, what does that mean for the human consciousness? Does our ability to perceive extend beyond the physical limitations of our bodies? And speaking of consciousness, our last story is truly terrifying. Chapter 5. The Man Who Met an Unknowable Presence. Michael, an experienced diver, had always considered himself a rational, grounded individual. But his near-death experience defied all logic, all reason. It was an encounter so profound, so alien, that it left him forever changed. After a diving accident left him stranded and drowning in the cold, dark depths of the ocean, Michael was clinically dead for a harrowing 6 minutes. But unlike the other stories we've explored, Michael's experience wasn't peaceful. It wasn't filled with light or loved ones. It was something else entirely. Instead of a tunnel, he saw something else. Something vast, ancient, and utterly incomprehensible to the human mind. He refuses to call it God or an angel. Those words, he says, are too small, too limiting. He describes it as a massive, formless presence, an intelligence that dwarfed the entirety of human understanding. It didn't speak in words, but he understood. Every question he'd ever had about life, death, the universe was answered instantly, not through language, but through a transference of pure knowledge. But the most terrifying aspect? When Michael was finally revived, pulled from the ocean depths and brought back to the world of the living, he couldn't remember any of the answers. The knowledge he had gained, the truths revealed, were gone, wiped clean, as if his mind was not meant to contain such cosmic secrets. It's as if we're not meant to know. Michael's experience, while disturbing, raises profound questions. What secrets lie beyond our understanding? What happens to our consciousness when we die? These are questions that continue to haunt us, drive our curiosity, and remind us of the vast mysteries that still remain. So, what happens after death? A tunnel, a light, another world? We may never know for sure, but one thing is certain: death is not the end, but a transition, a doorway to a realm beyond our current comprehension. The stories we've explored today, while extraordinary, remind us that the human experience is full of mysteries. They challenge us to question our assumptions, to probe the boundaries of our understanding, and to marvel at the wonders that lie beyond our grasp. And speaking of the unexplained, did you know some people wake up during surgery, completely aware, unable to move, feeling everything? Yeah, it's as terrifying as it sounds. Imagine the horror of being trapped inside your own body, unable to scream, unable to move while surgeons cut into you. Click here to watch my next video, The People Who Are Awake During Surgery But Can't Move, and find out why this horrifying medical phenomenon happens. See you there. Oh, and before you go, if you love uncovering medical mysteries, hit like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling stories every week.